Well, hey, y'all.
How's it going?
It's another day, another podcast,
You know,
and it's officially October,
my favorite month.
the Halloween season.
I'm so excited about it.
Well, if you're in Michigan, it's time for pumpkins and apple cider and donuts and fall weather.
Oh, yeah. It was pouring down rain and in the 60s and 70s today. So,
Really.
yeah, definitely
It's
fall weather.
in LA, it's like the past few weeks have been like cooler, like low 60s, mid 60s, but I guess over the weekend, it's been rising again. So got that heat, man.
So jealous.
I know, especially once December hits.
Oh, my God.
This will be my first winter not in Michigan, so
You're going to have to report back on.
it's gonna be so weird in January when I'm like, why isn't it snowing outside?
Right?
Because one of my coworkers said that she hasn't seen snow since she was in second grade.
It's
And
so weird.
when that happened, like apparently everybody was just freaking out. Like nobody knew what to do. And I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child.
Like, oh,
Oh, bless you.
oh, young, naive little thing.
You young thing. You've never seen the trials and errors of this world.
Come to Michigan and live in it.
I'm just like, yeah, you haven't experienced like negative 10 degrees in Michigan in January. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, oh no, that's terrible. I'm like, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is it as bad as it seems? Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Is the snow as bad as it seems? Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Is the driving terrible? Uh-huh.
Hmm. And half the time, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like half the time it's not so much the driving in the snow that's the worst part, it's the other drivers.
Yeah, that's terrible, obviously, but like
I mean,
I hate the other drivers that drive, but also I get anxiety when like because I've had a few times where you can't even see the road because it's completely covered in snow. So you don't even know. I mean, you're assuming you're on the road.
well, I was gonna say it also does really honestly depend on how much it snows because if
Yeah,
it's like a light snow, then the other drivers are the worst part. But
yeah.
if it's actually snowy, yeah,
So I
it
remember I was driving back to school to college one weekend, and it was in the evening, so it was starting to get dark, and it was snowing so hard, and the snow was covering the road, and you could not see the road. You could just see tire tracks. So you were just following the tire tracks, hoping that you were still on the road. So like that's just like
Mm.
nerve wracking, right?
Yeah.
It's like, am I gonna crash? If so, it's not my fault because I don't even know where I am.
Oh, it's so scary.
Yeah,
It is like because you feel so out of control,
yeah.
like
Like
so out of control.
even if you're going like 10 miles an hour on the freeway, like you're so scared.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, because you never know black ice. Like it's always just
Yeah,
like
yeah. I've spun out a few times. Thankfully, not crashed, but yeah,
I've done that too.
yeah, not fun for sure.
Have you ever gotten stuck in a like snow ditch?
Thankfully, no.
I have like 3 times.
Oof,
Not fun.
no.
Couldn't even like back my car up. Had to call a tow truck.
So reason number one why I'm happy I'm in LA. However, the trade-off is the traffic.
True.
So there are goods and bads for both
Hmm.
areas.
Hmm. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I remember like because going to my office, I've gone there a few times, and I mean, if there's no traffic, it's like a 20-minute drive, but I mean, I've gone there a few times and it's taken me almost an hour. And that's like in the middle of the day, like not even rush hour.
Really.
Yeah. So I am so thankful that I'm not working at the office currently.
Oh, that would suck. Yeah, I don't. Oh my God. Yeah.
And like even going side roads, like obviously it's gonna take longer because like stoplights and going slower speeds, but like still it would take probably the same amount of time because you're going on the side streets.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I would almost enjoy that more because I just hate traffic, you know? Like I'd rather go slower speeds than have to just deal with traffic just because I hate it so much.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. I guess apparently like you just no matter where you go, you can't get away from it.
Mm-mm.
Like you have to go so far outside of the city to have little traffic.
Are you are you like me where if I'm in traffic, I just like that irritability and I
Yeah.
everything just like
Well,
every
it's
little thing makes me mad.
yeah, but it's more so like I feel like I'm gonna be late, even though I'm clearly gonna be early. Like I just have that gut feeling like I'm gonna be late if we don't keep going, you know?
Okay.
So I don't know, that's just me.
Makes sense though, more that having anxiety of being late and
Yeah. I don't know, man.
makes sense to me. Because I hate being late.
Yeah. Because like I was raised that like if you're early, you're on time, and if you're on time, you're late.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you're late, you're in trouble.
Okay. See, my thing is because my mom was always not super late, but it was like 5, 10 minutes late. So, and I hated it when she was picking me up. So it was always like, okay, I don't want to be late.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
So,
Rock on.
you know,
You know what? I do know.
see, you get me. Mm-hmm.
I know a thing or two about that.
I know.
For sure.
You understand. You
I,
understand me
I
and what
do.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. So, anyway, we're doing a podcast.
What?
Wait, what?
We are?
Hold up. Did I miss something?
I wasn't aware.
You know what?
You're recording this?
What? I did not have consent, even though I'm the one that started this.
I just thought we were talking. I feel very violated.
I clicked a button accidentally. I am offended. I'm about to cancel this podcast.
I feel very violated. Okay.
Cancel culture.
Canceled.
For
Hashtag
sure.
me too.
That's right. So this is one that you had seen, and what is it about again?
So it was a YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy, which shout out because it's actually really interesting. And it's a license. I don't know if he's a counselor or a psychologist, um, and a filmmaker, and they like watch movies and like he talks about it from a counselor perspective, and then the other guy talks about it from a filmmaker's perspective. So
Okay.
it was pretty interesting
Yeah. So
because
we're
two different perspectives.
yeah. So you might have to start off with this just because I did not see that. So you might have to take the lead on this, which means that we can start off with one of your faves, which is Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Yeah. So I mean, so they did it scene by like they did certain scenes,
Okay.
and so like they did Goodwill Hunting, um, and they did like certain scenes in it, like
Yeah.
more of the therapy scenes.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought we can do kind of like a whole, like a just a general kind
Yeah.
of overview of it. So
Yeah.
for Harry Potter, I'm trying to think if we should go movie by movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
whatever you're feeling.
I mean, I guess we could go movie by movie.
Yeah.
So for the first one, I would say I think you're starting off with a boy who's has a little bit of trauma.
You don't say.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
Just a little trauma.
a little bit.
It's a trauma for me.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, look at he's living in an abusive with his abusive aunt and uncle.
Yeah,
Which I think honestly, if you kind of look at it, it kind of lends him to being more I think he really wanted the I think that's why he was kind of so well, I think anyone would be like just in awe of the Hogwarts.
yeah,
But I really think because he was in that like abusive household, when he went to Hogwarts, it was kind of like that, like it added that element of like awe to him, like I could be myself.
when I can see like being like Hagrid is the first person that he really got to know, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the first person that like really showed him like care and like empathy and stuff. So like I could see why Harry like was attached to him, you know?
I also think Hagrid was the one that showed him like, wait a minute, I don't have to live like this. I can stand up to the Dursleys. I don't have to just take whatever they're giving me.
Yeah,
Like he kind of gave a little bit of that self-confidence in Harry to say like, wait a minute, I don't just have to go along with what the Dursleys are
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
And then I think Ron also represents that like comfort for family
yeah,
and representation of family for him.
yeah,
And wanted like being in that like accepted. And then Hermione, I think, is very much the analytical thinking aspect
yeah,
of of his personality
yeah.
in a way. Um, yeah, I think you're right. And I think Dumbledore is kind of like Hagrid too,
Yeah,
in a way for him.
yeah, for sure. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from a filmmaker, what do you notice?
So I'm just trying to think if I want to do like I'm trying to do like because what did they do in the YouTube channel? Did they do like movie scenes like how it was shot or like the actual story
How it was shot?
how it was shot?
Yeah.
So I think it was good. Just because in the very beginning, like that opening scene with Dumbledore giving the Dursleys like a baby Harry, like there's that mystery. Especially if you haven't read the books, like you don't know like who he is, like what's going on. You don't know like there's obviously like a mystery, like who's Harry Potter because he's obviously special. That's the name of the film, but like why is he like so well known and like why is the story about him? Because he's just a baby at that point, but apparently everybody knows this kid. You know, like why does everybody know a 1 year old? Like
Mm-hmm.
why does he have that scar? And then just obviously him growing up in that abusive household, like he doesn't feel comfortable like asking about it, or even or I would even say like he doesn't even know like that scar means something, obviously.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So it's like that obliviousness. And then just seeing him,
Well, because you think about it, he thought his parents died in a car accident.
yeah. So just seeing him progress to like knowing more, or I guess figuring more out, because as Rubius Hagrid like was talking more like like wizard talk, like he's saying stuff about Muggles and about his parents, and saying stuff about you know who and how you should never say that name. And suddenly like we see Harry start to piece everything together, and it's like, okay, so the scar obviously means something. What does it mean? I know you know, Hagrid, tell me. And
Hmm.
it's like just that progression in his character of him like this shy, timid character to suddenly like, I want to know more. Like I want to know the truth. I want to know about my past. And it's just like that
That
cool.
increase in self-confidence of like,
Yeah. And it's just that arc of a character, like that character growth is
mhm,
cool. And I think people along the way really helped with his character growth because, like you said, like Ron was that real friend for him that he first had, and
mhm,
Hermione was just that like, okay, here's everything you need to know about Hogwarts. Like these are the spells. This is what you need to know. Like I'm gonna be your tutor basically. And then Dumbledore was like the kind old mentor, where Hagrid was more of like the friend that also taught him stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and then it's cool because like different people along the way taught him different things. Like McGonagall was kind yet stern. Um, Filch was obviously a butthead. Uh, Snape was very like, you know, mysterious and like didn't know what to make of Harry, and Harry didn't know what to make of him. He just thought like he was the bad guy because like all he knew was that Snape was being kind of snarky towards him, and that's what he knew from the Dursleys. So immediately when bad things start to happen, he blames the guy that, you know, seems to not like him so much.
well, if we're going psychoanal like counselor on that, and I'd have to rewatch it again to see if it really was, but like especially if it reminded him of the Dursleys,
Yeah,
like if Snape did, there's probably definitely some that's probably where some of his reactions were. It's almost like a not exactly a trauma response, but
yeah,
like in that kind of way of like a response of this is like the trauma
yeah,
or the abuse I experienced, and I'm gonna react the same way because it's so similar.
yeah. And there are little subtle things about Quirrell that you can see throughout the movie that like kind of point to like he's not like there's something going on with Quirrell, like little side things that are kind of within the frame, but like they're not the main focus, So it's like it's something that you could overlook, and it's like, okay, I see Snape staring at me. I see Snape in the stands at Hogwarts trying to put a curse on the broom, but you can see Quirrell in the background, like, not breaking concentration. You can see him in the Great Hall, like off talking to himself. So you can see like it's like a misdirection kind of a thing, which is cool from a filmmaker's perspective because like obviously towards the end, unless you pick up on that stuff, it's like you don't notice that. So it's more of a surprise. Um,
Mhm.
so and obviously it is for Harry too. And it's even more surprising, I think, if you haven't read the books, to see Quirrell or Voldemort on the back of Quirrell's head, because obviously that's like such a shock, which is cool. Because you don't really know why Quirrell has the turban on, but it's obviously like Voldemort under there. Um, so that's a cool reveal. Um, but at the
And
same,
I also think the movies did it really well too with, and I don't know if it's with I like in the beginning, it was all this like you said, that mystery of like, okay, who is Harry Potter? Like you're kind of learning that world as he's learning it.
yeah,
And so like in the beginning, especially like throughout the whole movie, it does kind of, and I'm sure you notice that progression in each movie, it kind of gets like darker and darker and darker.
yeah,
But like in the first movie, you're like in awe with him because we're learning that world with him. And so when Quirrell
yeah,
came, you you were just as like, wait, what?
yeah,
Voldemort's on the back of Quirrell?
yeah. But also it's kind of funny for me because it's like, oh no, at the end with Voldemort, like Harry Potter's in danger, and it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do for the rest of the series of movies if Harry dies?
Right. Right.
So it's like,
Right.
of course he's gonna live, right?
Exactly.
He's gonna be fine. Like the next movie isn't like Ron Weasley in the Chamber of Secrets, right?
Right.
So that for me is like, it's one of those things like, of course he's gonna live. Like if anyone's gonna die, it's gonna be like anyone else.
We knew.
Yeah.
We knew. Like,
So anyway,
I will say one more thing too, like going back to Snape. I think there was a lot of, if we're going Freudian on it, and
okay.
his defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
Snape had a lot of displacement onto
Yeah.
Harry. So he projected a lot of his hatred for James Potter onto Harry.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. For sure.
And so that was another thing that it just came to my mind. But and I do think it's interesting. Like, I don't know if it's a filmmaking. I think it's probably more the filmmaking where you are shocked, like, and you do feel like you're in on it.
Yeah. For sure.
Especially when Ron was playing the chess game.
Yeah, definitely.
Not
Sure.
fun.
Anyway, number 2.
This is an interesting one. I mean, I feel like it's kind of similar to the first one, but I will say that I do think there's stuff where like Harry gets nervous about a lot, like when, especially when Hermione was petrified,
Yeah.
because he was like, I can't. Okay, now I don't have that my knowledge basically.
One Ron too.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I mean, I think that was like his main thing was like, okay, now I have to go into the Chamber of Secrets. And I mean, it kind of messed with his mind to go into that book
Yeah, for sure.
and like learn about all of that stuff.
We can see him trying to talk to Tom Riddle and he's obviously not answering, and Harry's so confused. Like he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like he's still mesmerized by a lot of magical things at this point.
Yes. I think he's still learning a lot about it. And I think that's partly why, I mean, I don't know if they touch on it as much blatantly and directly, but I think he has a little bit of distrust in the magical stuff because he trusted that book and he was like, thought Tom was like, oh, okay. And then when he finds out he's Voldemort, he's like, kind of like has to do something to you.
And also, it's interesting that just from that diary, there's a part of him, not fully, but a part of him that suspects Hagrid.
Mm-hmm.
He needs the clarification from the spiders that Hagrid didn't do it, even though at this point, like, he should know that Hagrid didn't do it.
There's that trust, right?
Yeah.
There's that trust of like, who do I believe? What can I believe?
Yeah.
It's a whole like, it's interesting because you're watching his whole world view kind of shift in a way.
Yeah. Also, how do you feel when Mrs. Norris is petrified and Harry just happens to be there and Filch immediately blames him? Like, is there a reason why Filch would immediately blame him? Is he just like hateful towards kids, or like what do you think?
Ooh, so I'm trying to remember if in the books, if people were thinking Harry was what do they call it? heir of Salazar.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember if in the books they were like, wait, I think they were, because he could speak Tongue.
Yeah.
I think that's why Filch automatically went to Harry.
Yeah.
I think that was just that like automatic thought that you're not even thinking with like your logic, you're just emotion, like straight emotion. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he should have known.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
the one for me that I thought was interesting was when he went to see Aragon, and I like how they portrayed Ron's fear of spiders.
Yeah.
Because it brought a little comedic element to it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting because you touched on the trust part, like if he like immediately went to Hagrid. But like I also thought, I mean, he definitely has a curiosity too to like just get to the bottom of things. Like he doesn't take everything at face value. He's always exploring.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas Ron, I feel like Ron is kind of like, I'm just gonna leave that there. I don't want to.
That's right. So how do you feel about the character Gilderoy Lockhart?
You okay? Are you ready?
Am I?
Narcissism.
Right.
If you narcissistic, straight up.
If you saw that word in the dictionary, would pull up Gilderoy Lockhart.
Narcissist.
Right.
He's straight up like a narcissistic personality.
Yeah.
Like,
but also very hypocritical in a sense because like at the first sign of trouble, like he's out of there.
It's narcissism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with narcissistic people, at any sign of shame or if anything makes them feel perceived real or perceived shame, they immediately, that's where the narcissism comes in.
Yeah.
It's all about shame for them and trying to avoid that shame.
Yeah.
And so for him, he couldn't let them, like, he couldn't be shamed, so he had to go into the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
And then when they kind of figured out everything, he was like, okay, I have to, that was his only skill basically, was that whatever that spell was to remove memories.
Yeah.
Obliviate.
Yeah.
And he just had to. But he's like a straight up narcissist.
Yeah, for sure.
He has like grandioser ideas of like himself and his skills, but you can tell it's all fake.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he knows that this isn't real.
Yeah, for sure.
But in a way he believes it. Like he knows it's not real, but he believes what he's saying too.
For sure.
In the same instance.
Yeah. I don't know.
He is, man. Like even so, if you watch the scene where I think it's when Gilderoy is first introduced.
Yeah.
And they're at the bookstore.
Yeah.
And he's talking, not in front of the whole audience. right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, his voice changes, his posture changes, his whole, and he's like, "Come, Harry,
Right.
let's get a picture."
Right.
And so, and I think he says something too that's totally narcissistic. Um, Even him just giving Harry the books for free,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
what? And then when he teaches the class, but he doesn't know how to stop all those. I forgot what the flying things
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
and Hermione had to do it.
Right.
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
Got that right.
Good bringing him up. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He's yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, if you look up narcissists, it would probably be him, Charles Manson,
Yeah.
and Ted Bundy.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So from a filmmaker for you for the second.
It is cool just because like you saw signs of the evidence that like the thing in the walls was a snake. Like you saw hints of that throughout. I mean, the biggest thing is like Harry spoke parcel tongue. So like you knew he could speak to snakes. So that's why only he could hear it and nobody else had any ideas. So it's more so like figuring out like where it is, how it's moving in the walls, and like how the audience knows, even though there are those hints.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally find out like spiders flee before it in that little text, and he says like, "Oh, it's a serpent, it's a snake," um, and so that's kind of cool. And then just seeing like towards the end in the chamber how big it is, like that's a cool reveal because like you don't know the size of this thing until it's revealed. So that's kind of cool. Um, and just going through the process, like just seeing Harry kind of start to grow up and kind of start to understand more things, even though he's still in awe of a lot. Like he's still like he's learning a lot more and he's growing more confident, which is cool. Like character growth,
Yeah.
and he's more so like in a sense taking charge because like obviously Hermione is um, petrified and Ron is a coward in the forest. So like he kind of has to take charge instead of being like, okay, these people know magic and I don't know anything. Whereas in this one, he's starting to take more charge, which is a cool arc for his character. And then of course in the chamber, like he has to kill a snake and kill Tom Riddle's memory in the diary, which is a cool moment. And then he saves Ginny in the same process, and basically sacrifices himself to the venom. And then Fox comes in and saves the day, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, you're definitely, and I think the films do like, I think the directors, particularly in the first two, really do that job of like pointing out Harry's journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
From the minute he got his invitation to Hogwarts, he's like on this journey of self-discovery.
Right.
And so I do think they do a good job of that. But also with Ginny, I don't know if we should wait until the last book, but there's a little Freudian thing going on with him and Ginny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can say that now.
So definitely, have you ever heard of the Freudian concept of like the Oedipus complex?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I'm blanking on it.
So the Oedipus complex, and it's pretty much been debunked, but is basically Freud believed that unconsciously we have as a child, a sexual desire for the opposite sex parent and hatred for the same sex parent.
Okay.
It's been debunked,
Okay. Fair enough.
but he believed it.
Yeah.
He basically said that his identification with the same sex parent is what the outcome you want is. So you want the child to identify with the same sex parent so that way there's no neuroses and that sexual desire kind of goes away.
Okay.
Totally not true.
Yeah.
But if we're just type saying it, Ginny does kind of look like his mom, Harry's mom.
Okay.
There might be a little Oedipus complex going on there, but
Well, you never know.
Just saying.
Just saying. Just saying.
Freud might have been onto something.
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I get that. For sure.
yeah.
So shall we do number 3?
We shall. So while I'm gathering my thoughts, you want to start on the third one?
Yeah. So I think, at least for me, that I think the third one is one of my favorites.
Okay.
So just in terms of like storytelling and all that, and it's cool because at least for me, it starts to get a little darker in the sense that of course in the first 2, like Harry's in danger and he's in danger of like dying and this and that. But in this one, it's like there's so much added danger, like that's always kind of present in the sense that you now are introduced to Dementors, who are kind of like they're introduced and they're out there. They're looking for Sirius Black, who who ends up in like Hogwarts, like as far as we know. So now the Dementors are always around and they're always a threat. So there's that. Plus, Sirius Black is around, and as far as Harry knows, Sirius Black's out to kill him. So there's another threat. And towards the end of the movie, like as Sirius Black is confirmed like innocent, there's a new threat that comes along, which is Remus Lupin as a werewolf now, and he's trying to kill him. And then towards the end, it's the whole gigantic swarm of Dementors at the lake that are sucking out Harry's and Sirius Black's souls. So there's that. And then they have to go back in time to try to save Sirius and like save themselves basically. So there's like that added tension of like, is it gonna work? Of course it's gonna work because like it has to work, but it seems so impossible. So yeah, there's just like a lot of darker elements to the stories, whereas in the first 2 it seemed a little more cheerful in a sense, like at least in certain parts, whereas in the third one you really start to get a sense of like there's danger.
It's more childish.
Yeah. Whereas this one you see like a little more seriousness and like you see Harry like actually having to grow up a little bit.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that J.K. Rowling did really well in her books.
Yeah.
Is she kept them very developmentally where that person would be psychologically at that age.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at it through Harry's eyes, basically. So yeah, you're right. The first 2, it's very, I mean, I don't know if childlike is exactly the right word, but almost it is childlike because there's a childlike wonder to this new world and there's danger in it, but the overall tone of it isn't dark. Whereas as he gets older, I think because his worldview is shifting to more of like a negative one,
Yeah.
it's getting darker.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Trying to think. Just yeah, like Harry's emotions too. Like he's kind of forced to like kind of be growing up, where like he learns that Sirius Black is his godfather, and it's like suddenly he has this anger towards Sirius Black, where it's like, you know, Sirius, like his parents trusted him, and then he got him killed. So now he's kind of after Sirius Black. Like, I don't even care if he's out to get me. Like, I'm gonna kill him first. So there's that like anger, and like he kind of forces himself to bottle his emotions and see him. And then when he finds out that he's innocent and it was Peter Pettigrew, then it's like that sudden shift of like suddenly he has to care for Sirius, and he knows that he's innocent, and suddenly he's like doing what he can to protect him, because now he knows that Sirius is like, he loved him and still does.
Right.
And
Right.
I will say,
one other thing I find interesting is like, because that is a complete shift in your perspective.
Yeah.
And your view on someone. Like, you think this person killed your parents, and then all of a sudden, nope, they didn't.
Right.
Just kidding.
Right. And I will say one of my favorite parts in the movie is just when Harry and Hermione are back in time and they're waiting for Harry's supposed dad to come and cast the Patronus. And then Harry learns that it was himself all along. And then he goes and casts the spell. And it's just like, that's like such a groundbreaking moment for me, for Harry. Like, it's just, he's really starting to come into his own. And like, it's almost like he's starting to become his dad and like have the confidence of his dad in a sense.
Yeah. So actually, I think a part of why he was able, because I mean, well, okay. So I think that's part of why he was able to quickly make that shift of like, wait a minute, this person killed my father.
Yeah.
Or turned in my father. And then all of a sudden, it didn't take a lot to convince him that, no, it was Peter Pettigrew.
Right.
And I think it's because he had this idolization of his father in his head.
Okay.
And he idolized his father. And so I think part of him, and I could be wrong, but I think there was part of him that knew that that was his dad's best friend. And
Yeah.
like, this person knew a lot about his dad.
Yeah.
And like, almost like a lost connection to his dad that he was gaining. So like,
Yeah.
anything that could convince him that like, no, this person didn't turn in your father and your mom. It was like, he wanted that because he wanted that connection.
Yeah. So any other thoughts for you?
Um that's when Lupin comes in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Lupin kind of played a similar part in Harry's life of like, kind of like a connection to his dad, but also a mentor.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, it's interesting. And I think you see him less in awe of the new magical things that are being presented to him.
Yeah.
Like, it's starting to become more normalized for him.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's about it on that one.
So number 4.
I have the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
That's a good one. This one I don't know too much. This one I don't feel like it progressed. I mean, the end progressed the storyline,
Yeah,
but I don't feel like there's not a lot to analyze from like a counseling perspective.
yeah,
Majority of the movie.
yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, Barty Crouch is pretty an interesting character, but
Yeah,
um, I mean, I'm sure you could. There's a diagnosis for him.
yeah. But yeah, for me, it's kind of cool. Like, I love the very, very beginning of that, where it's like Harry's dream of seeing Voldemort and Crouch Jr. and Pettigrew, just because it really gives that creepy vibe of like, this is definitely not for kids anymore. Like it is, but at the same time, it's like darker, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like just the snake and like it opens on the skulls and it's just kind of very creepy. So, it's not going to be as lighthearted anymore. So that's cool. It's like good foreshadowing and
Yes.
definite foreshadowing for like um, obviously Voldemort coming back to life, like them making their plans. I will say it is cool that it's like a mystery of like who put Harry's name in the goblet of fire because like you really don't know who did that. So like that's kind of a cool twist.
Until the
Um,
end, right?
yeah, and I think the fact that um, Mad-Eye Moody is not really Mad-Eye Moody in this movie. Like that's a cool twist that I like because obviously this is the first time that we're meeting him, so we have no reference that this is a fake guy. So as far as the audience knows, this is Mad-Eye Moody. Like this is just him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just like this aggressive, hard guy who's an Auror, which is true, but he's so much like better than what he gives off in this movie because he's not himself, which is
Right,
cool.
right, right.
And then obviously like I feel like the games were more like fun and like that they're going to survive the games or whatever. But the fact that the cup at the very end is a port key is kind of a throw off, which is fun. And then they come to that same graveyard in Harry's dreams, which is a cool callback. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's where something's about to happen. Like you see
Right.
the graveyard, and it's like something's about to happen. I don't know what. And then you see Pettigrew, and you see like this creepy, like wretched old baby thing. It's Benjamin Button looking baby, and you like part of you is like, is that Voldemort? Like the last time we saw him, he was like going through Harry's chest in the Sorcerer's Stone. So it's like, how did that happen? But like, whatever, because he drops Voldemort in the pot, he cuts off his hand, he puts in the bone, and
Can
then
we just talk about how traumatizing though for Harry to see
right,
Cedric die?
yeah, yeah, like that
Like,
was for sure,
I'm,
and
I'm
yeah,
listen. There's a lot of trauma going on for Harry, and I'm not seeing any of the trauma responses.
right. And then yeah, just seeing Voldemort like in the flesh for the first time is like a cool thing to see. It's kind of cool how they visually did that, and then just seeing them fight. I do think, I'll be honest, I think like the whole mist thing, kind of distracting Voldemort to get Harry out of there. I thought that was kind of lame, but that's just me. Like it was kind of a cheesy way to get Harry out of there, But whatever. Like obviously we have to find a way for Harry to survive. So whatever. But of
Yeah, it was a
course,
little
it was very emotional, like Harry bringing Cedric's body back and his father, like,
my boy, my
just,
boy.
yeah. And then at the very end, just seeing like Mad-Eye Moody become Crouch Jr. and
Yeah,
seeing where he put the real Mad-Eye. So like that was a twist as well, which is fun because you didn't really expect any more twists at that point.
you're like, all right, this.
It's
Oh,
done. Yeah. So that was kind of cool as well. But
mhm.
yeah, so I guess that's kind of it for me.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm sure I could find more, but
Yeah.
I can't, nothing's coming to mind besides what we just talked about. I mean, I know if I really look at Barty Crouch Jr., I could find something, but
Yeah.
I'm too tired to do that right now.
For sure. So, on that note, Order of the Phoenix.
I think
Do you want to talk about Umbridge? Do you need to get that off your chest?
yes, we need to talk about Umbridge. Cool. This girl.
Hold up, listen up, this girl.
I have been, I mean, if you think about it, it always is like, why is this girl so mean?
Right.
But I feel like she's in love with the Minister of Magic, and she is just doing whatever he wants.
Okay.
I feel like there's an enmeshment there.
Yeah.
On her part.
Okay.
She's definitely in love with him.
Okay.
Definitely weird with her cats.
Right.
And she's very abusive.
You don't say.
She kind of pissed me off. Not gonna lie.
Right.
Not gonna lie. When she had Harry right and it showed up on his arm
Yeah.
or on his hand. Ugh.
Right.
Like that is, and it looks like she liked that torture.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I think she feeds off of power.
Yeah.
For sure. She feeds off of power.
Okay. I feel that.
Oh yeah, because her liking it, the
Yeah.
only way you're gonna like that is if you
Yeah.
power does that to you.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way you would like that.
Right. For sure.
I mean, I'm sure there's other ways, but for her, I definitely think it's power. And I think that's why she's so in love with the Minister of Magic, because he has so much power.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And she likes control. I think it's all of a control thing too for her.
Yeah. I get
Which
that.
probably is why she likes power, because if you're in power,
Yeah.
you have control.
Right. For sure.
So I definitely think there's a diagnosis for her too.
Yeah.
She's clinically insane.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say clinically insane. I would say there's something clinical with her that you could definitely diagnose her with.
Yeah.
But I won't diagnose on camera, so.
Okay.
But only with Gilderoy Lockhart because it's so obvious.
Right. Yeah.
I definitely think with her, yeah. And I think, I'm trying to think of, yeah, she did piss me off though.
Yeah. For sure.
But what else in that? I definitely, Professor Trelawney was interesting too.
Yeah. For sure.
She's interesting.
Yeah. For sure.
I think she brought like a comedic element to it though too.
Yeah. Definitely. For sure.
What about for you for the filmmaking?
So this is the one that's just kind of like neutral for me. Like I don't have a whole lot to say about this one, I guess.
I know.
Like it's just kind of like it's not bad. Like I liked it, but it just kind of like in a sense, was a filler for me.
I think it kind of was because
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of Voldemort in it.
Now, and for me, it was just more like a setup for future movies, and the setup, like the start of the preparation for like the Battle of Hogwarts, in a
Yeah.
sense.
It it, it was giving you that background of
Yeah.
like the foundation of
Yeah.
it, basically.
I will say the one cool thing was the very end, but the little battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore. That was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we could talk about the psychology of Voldemort.
Yeah.
Because he's an interesting, like, you got to think. I mean, I know it's a character, but
Yeah.
you got to wonder what would make him go evil.
Right. Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I just feel like, and I think, I know we've talked about this before when we've talked about like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
How you want like more of like his childhood
Yeah.
and like more of a backstory on Voldemort.
Right.
And I would agree. For sure. I think it would give us more insight into why he turned evil.
Okay.
But I definitely think I'm trying to like put this not in like all psychological terms.
Right.
But so he clearly has a fear of death
Yeah.
and a fear of not being remembered. I mean, why else would you split your soul into 7
Right.
pieces?
Yeah.
Like, and from what we do know of his childhood, he does fit into many of the stereotypes, classic stereotypes of a serial killer.
Yeah, for sure.
His parents were unhappy. He was a loner. He was bullied by other children. He tortured animals. And he liked to collect trophies.
Yeah. Cool.
Because I think you saw a young Tom Riddle. He had a box of stolen articles.
Yeah.
That were taken from the victims of his bullying behaviors.
Yeah.
They were like that souvenirs, which is like a classic serial killer trope.
Right.
And yeah, he just
Cool.
kind of like that stereotypical serial killer.
Yeah. There you go. Alrighty.
Yeah. So, yeah. The 5th one.
Number 6.
Oh, that's right. Ooh. I'm trying to think. Well, I think the 6 actually really kind of like really solidified like what Voldemort's motivations were.
Yeah.
and like that a lot of them were based on self-hatred. Um, I think the sixth one solidified that in a way.
Yeah.
And I mean, this isn't a counseling perspective, but I really the background on Snape and Snape being the half-blood prince.
Yeah.
I thought that they really worked on de-idolizing Harry's father in that one.
Okay.
Like, I feel like they really, like, he just saw this whole other, like, he saw Snape's perspective of his dad. So he held his dad on this pedestal, and then now Snape comes in and was like, no, your dad bullied me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like, one, his dad's not there to defend him, and you're only getting one side of the story.
Yeah. For sure.
So we don't know if those events happened exactly how they happened.
Right.
But it's, I mean, that's the movie where a lot of people fall in love with Snape, or they like really love the idea of Snape and Lily.
Yeah.
Which I never understood.
Right.
Because it sounded like Snape didn't know how to refuse and say, no, she doesn't like you.
Right. Yeah. That's what's up.
Just saying. To me, that's what I saw. He doesn't really get a lot of social cues.
Yeah, definitely.
Trying to think what else, but from a filmmaker.
It was good. Again, like you're getting a little darker.
Yeah.
You know, just Harry just starting to be more confident with who he is and like his whole story, and him just being like kind of more of a leader, kind of prepping for this big war that's going to happen. Obviously, Dumbledore's death is like hit him hard, but like he knows that like the real war is coming, and like he has to kind of forge on and like go through that, which is a powerful moment. So that's kind of cool. But again, for me, like I really liked this movie. I'd say more so than the fifth one, but at the same time, like for me, it was more of a filler as well for the battle, and it was more so like the prelude to the Battle of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
So it was good, but at the same time, like we're really looking forward to Battle of Hogwarts at this point.
Yeah. And I think that's why they started to de-idolize his father.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that gave Harry, it made Harry come more into his identity.
Yeah.
He wasn't just James's and Lily's son.
Yeah.
You know, it was more of part of him figuring out, like, okay, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Aside from being their son.
Yeah, for sure.
As much. But it was kind of a filler.
Yeah, definitely.
Just a bit. It's not one of my favorites because Snape's not my favorite character.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I didn't really care about his backstory.
Yeah.
Which sounds awful, but
yeah,
he just wasn't one of my favorite characters.
right.
So then in the seventh one, there's not much else to say about the sixth.
Yeah, no.
But in the seventh one, I don't know. I feel like it's the same kind of until the last book. there's no kind of just the same thing that I've been saying. Like it's all just continuing Harry and his discovery and getting more confident in himself
Yeah,
and preparing to defeat Voldemort.
yeah, sure.
Kind of it.
So I'll say that in this one, we really start to see Harry, Ron, and Hermione kind of working together as a team, because obviously they didn't go back to Hogwarts because they're out finding Horcruxes. You really see them as a team, but you also see them struggling as a team, especially with like the locket, and just see them going at each other like against that thing. So that was a cool dynamic for me.
It's a realistic one.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
I liked that dynamic just to see that like not like every friendship is perfect and like people quarrel with each other and stuff happens and all that. So it was cool to see that among them because like they're these best friends, but at the same time like they argue with each other.
Well, and think about it. You can like I think quarantine kind of showed us this too, but if you're with someone 24/7,
Yeah,
you're going to argue.
yeah,
You're going to get on each other's nerves. Like
yeah,
it's just when you're around someone that much,
yeah.
it's realistic. Like so I like that aspect of it too.
Yeah. All right. Number 7, part 2. How do you feel?
I thought like I mean not the psychology of like the characters, but it took the audience like on a psychological roller coaster.
Yeah, for sure.
I felt like, and it was interesting because I think too, you could interpret when he went to Dumbledore in a lot of different ways, I guess.
Yeah,
And it's kind of interesting because I think it was Harry. Maybe if you think about this a little more, but like the psychology behind it. But like Harry finding out that he is the seventh or the eighth Horcrux,
yeah. One of those.
one of those. You can see that like total perspective change of like, holy shit, that's where my scar's from. Like
Yeah,
my mom's love protected me, but I'm also a Horcrux. Like
yeah,
what?
yeah, for sure.
Like realistically, that's gotta mess with a person.
Yeah, sure.
Could you imagine?
Right.
Like that would be like literally you have a piece of Adolf Hitler's soul in you.
That's right. Gotta get rid
That's
of it.
that's what it would be like.
Yeah, for sure. Ridiculous.
But I think it also showed that Harry was kind of like, wait a minute, I had bad in me, but I was still good.
Yeah, for sure. Rock on.
It was a good, I don't know, some more things that come to mind, but that's,
Yeah,
what did you think as a from film?
it was fun. I mean, it was very satisfying, like the whole battle. Obviously, like in a battle, you're gonna have losses on both sides, and the losses on the good side were heartbreaking. Obviously, I think they showed that off really well. Just the sorrow and the sadness from the characters as they were mourning the dead.
Um,
Um,
Fred's death is the only one I cried at.
right.
So sad.
But yeah, it was very satisfying. I mean, it's a battle, so like there's gonna be action and like death and all that and this and that. I thought Harry's death was kind of cool. And then how he came back and like how he got to talk to Dumbledore was kind of cool. And then how he came back and surprised Voldemort and ended up killing him. And it was all just very like satisfying. Like all 8 movies like led up to this point, and like Voldemort died and Harry won, and you can just see him, Ron and Hermione just standing out in the open together, and it was a cool way to end it, I thought. So I liked it.
I agree.
Oh shit.
I feel like the all like you said, but like I feel like as each movie got darker, there was also the tension grew.
Yeah.
In each movie, and then this movie, you felt like the tension just went.
Yeah. Yeah.
All done. No more tension. It's just all.
Right.
But I thought it was cool how they did the 19 years later.
Yeah, that was fun too.
It was cool to see their characters older.
Yeah, definitely.
And to see who they named their kids after.
Yeah, right. Pretty legit.
I think that's it for that movie for me, though. That I can remember. I'm sure there's more, but
Right.
yeah, overall, yeah, I think that's it for me.
Rock out. I guess on that note, we're moving on to the next group of movies, which is The Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so how do you want to do this one?
I guess we could just do it like movie by movie. Just kind of go through it.
Okay, I'll see if I can do that.
Right. Well, we can even go through the characters too, briefly if we can. But for me as a filmmaker, like I just think it's really cool how like we open up on how like Sauron like created the ring and like he kind of ruled over everything else, and like you get that backstory of like you're welcoming into this fantasy world that you know nothing about, and like really like you don't feel like your hand is being held throughout it, but like it kind of is in a sense of like you're being shown this brand new world and you have no idea what it is, you have no idea who is in it, but like the opening monologue kind of guides you through it, and then as you learn more, like it kind of like the movie kind of walks you through the world and the characters, so that's kind of cool, and it does so in a very mature way, so like you don't feel like it's a childish movie, like it's an adult movie, but like you feel like your hand is being held throughout this and you're really understanding everything in a good way. And the characters are cool. I think in the first movie, especially in the first part, like you're really being introduced to these characters and the storyline, and it's a cool introduction for all of them. You can see right off the bat that like Gandalf is like this powerful wizard, and Frodo's and like the rest of the hobbits are just kind of like fun-loving people, and they're like
There's like a
obviously
childlike wonder to the hobbits.
yeah, like they're just fun and just want to have a good time. Yeah, and you can see that very quickly shift when Frodo gets the ring, and you can see that like obviously this is something that you don't want to mess with, and that kind of immediately makes him a little more serious and like not as joking, even if the others are. He's very much like, I have this quest to do and I have to get this ring so far before I, you know, turn away. And he just seeks the help out of everyone he can without giving away his identity, which is cool. And then he just trusts people along the way. And then once he gets to the elven area, he kind of confirms that like, okay, I have to go destroy this ring. So he bravely does that for me, and like that's really cool. And you know, the whole fellowship is, obviously there to help them out. And they go through all their trials, and that's when it starts to get like a lot more serious, I feel, because they're dealing with real evil and like darkness and stuff, and they're trying to find the best way to go where they won't be seen. And it's just like this whole like mystery of like, how do we do this? What's the best course of action? Um, and it's like through this medieval land, so like they don't have technology, obviously. Like they just have their wit and their skill and their weaponry with them, which is cool too. Um, and they just fight their way through any troubles that they have. And that's just kind of the first one for me, because like there aren't a whole lot of battles. It's just kind of like finding their way through Middle Earth, best way that they can, in a sense. And
Mhm.
obviously the hobbits like have no idea what they're doing because they just know their own land. So they kind of look to everyone else to like show them the way, basically, which is cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first one for me, basically.
I think
I know you just care about Pippin.
I said, all right. Pippin. I just focused on Pippin, so
Right,
no. Yeah, let's go into an in-depth about Pippin. No, I'm kidding.
right,
We can just talk about how great he is.
right.
I'm trying to think because, like, I definitely think it's not a lot psychologically to like analyze because they were laying that foundation.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and you're just getting an idea of who the characters were,
right,
what Middle Earth is, just
yeah,
all. So I will say though, you definitely get this sense of like there's almost like good, like almost like Freud's id, ego, and superego
okay,
kind of in play in Middle Earth. Like,
yeah,
um, which I don't know, should probably explain what the id, superego, and ego are. But so you have the id, which is that primitive instinctual part of your mind,
yeah,
and that has the sexual, the aggressive drives, and the hidden memories.
yeah,
That's kind of there, and I feel like that is like the orcs, right? They're very primitive.
yeah, right,
Um, and then you have the super ego, and that's the moral conscious.
yeah,
I feel like that's kind of like the elves, right? Like,
yeah,
and then the ego is the realistic part
yeah,
that means that between that mediates the desires of the id and the
right,
super ego.
yeah,
So, and I might be looking into that too deep, but
right,
I remember I didn't get that from just making it up, but I feel like that could be possibly like if you really wanted to pull something, you could do like I feel like that's kind of what you kind of have like those distinct three different things
yeah, for sure.
in color.
Yeah,
And
for
Frodo,
sure. Yeah,
you know the hobbits are just like those people that are like, don't care, more
right,
chill, hang out,
right,
do whatever.
for real,
And like, no man, you gotta go through Middle Earth to take that ring.
right, yeah,
Nah, man, you can't have your second breakfast.
Come on, man.
You gotta save the earth.
Yeah. So anyway, number 2.
You start.
Okay. Well, I think that's where it starts to get like the stakes are raised in a sense, just because the whole fellowship is split. At that point, like Frodo and Sam are off on their own, and they're trying to find their way, and they run into Gollum, and Sam obviously right off the bat and correctly um, doubts Gollum for obvious reasons, and Frodo, like
Why would he ever do that?
right,
Callum just seems like such a nice person.
right. But Frodo's saying like, listen, we're lost. We have no idea where to go. He knows where to go. So like, let's at least bring him along for a while. And he ends up staying with them till the end. Sam is obviously very judgmental of him and like the whole way through. Meanwhile, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, which are like the true bromance of the group, they're off on their own. They find Gandalf again after he apparently had died, and he came back. And then they go off and kind of get ready to fight this battle that they have to fight because they know that they have to let Frodo go and do his quest. Like they can't be with him anymore. So now it's kind of their job to help fight for the freedom of Middle Earth against this like evil. So they go fight this major battle in the second movie, which is cool, and it's obviously like I love that battle. Um, Meanwhile, it's like so there's like that action in there mixed with Frodo and Sam, where it's like there's not a lot of action, but there's still that tension with Gollum. And then you also see that more kind of chill atmosphere with Merry and Pippin and Treebeard, the talking tree. And like there's still some tension in there, but it's like, it's like almost doesn't feel as bad as like what else is going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's tension going on, but it's not as bad as like Frodo and Sam and Gollum or this other battle that's going on. So yeah, so that's kind of an overall thought. I could go ahead and get into so much more, like smaller details, but what do you think?
Oh, you know what I mean? Because there's so much in that one.
Yeah,
So I think with Frodo, there's definitely a radical acceptance that he's looking for.
okay.
I don't know. I also feel like Samwise is the real hero,
I mean, yes.
right?
And then obviously Gollum has that split personality.
See, I think Gollum is actually showing the id and the superego.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely the ID for sure,
Right.
for sure. But I also think I would say that, but I feel like because the ring turned him bad, I
Yeah.
feel like that's more of the id, like the id versus the superego. Like
Okay.
that's his primitive, like aggressive instincts, the evilness coming out in that personality,
Yeah.
and then himself is the moral, the you know.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Frodo if we're looking at it, is definitely there's a radical acceptance that he's
Okay.
looking for.
Okay. I can see that.
I mean, at least, and I think it's through all of them, not just in the second, but like through all of them.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
I'm gonna think what else. Yeah, so basically, maybe it's not even Frodo, but I think the second one, it's really like accepting life on life's terms and not resisting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's where the radical acceptance is, not necessarily from Frodo, but just that's the whole message in a way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like you can't like yeah, you can't what you cannot choose to change and what you can choose to change.
Yeah.
Like
Right. For sure.
I definitely think well it's like Frodo though. He definitely had like he didn't I don't know, I feel like that goes into his character too though, and especially with the ring, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. For sure.
because like he didn't want the ring to change him,
Yeah. Right.
but he still did.
Right.
So all I kind of can remember.
Number 3. So obviously the conclusion of the trilogy. I think it was wrapped up very nicely. Obviously, it's a 4.5-hour movie. If you watch the extended editions, which I made you do, but it was awesome. I loved it. That huge final battle was absolutely insane. I loved it. It was so epic and probably one of my favorite battles in any movie. That's just bias for me. I love Lord of the Rings. But it kind of brings everybody together. Like, I mean, except for Frodo and Sam, but you have Merry and Pippin, you have Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, all on the same turf fighting a common enemy, which is so cool. Gandalf is obviously like leader, like he's playing leader in all this because the ruler of that area is like deficient, basically, like he's no good. And just seeing them fight evil and conquering it was so cool. And then they have to go back to Mordor, like the land of evil, and kind of finish things off. So Frodo and Sam can kind of go into Mordor and sneak their way through to Mount Doom and destroy the ring. Like this whole army was like distracting, like all the orcs in middle or in Mordor. So Frodo and Sam could get through, which was obviously very heroic. Um, but yeah, it ended up working, and they destroyed the ring, which was awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was just very satisfying to watch from beginning to end, and just seeing like Gollum go from kind of being really kind of tricksy and like kind of trying to sneak up on them and have other people kill them for him to just at the very end just trying to outright kill them himself, and it ends up failing and he ends up dying in the end.
I definitely think Gollum changed. Like he went from going back and forth in between like those those two, in between like being, why am I blanking on his real name?
Oh, Andy Serkis.
No, like
Oh,
what was his Hobbit name?
oh, Smeagol.
Yeah, he kind of goes in between being Smeagol and Gollum.
Yeah, yeah,
And I feel like he towards the end he was just more of that Gollum.
right. Yeah,
Like Smeagol was kind of losing that battle with Gollum.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I definitely think so. This one it really shows because I feel like in the beginning, Frodo was kind of very going against. He tried to like avoid having to leave the Shire to go on this in the beginning.
yeah,
Like in the first movie. He tried to avoid leaving the Shire, going on this adventure. Like he didn't really want to do this, right?
right.
And then when he, especially in the first one, when he heard just how dangerous, like when Gandalf tells him just how dangerous the ring that he inherited is,
Yeah,
he tries
right,
to avoid it.
right.
And then this movie kind of really shows him like accepting it. Like, okay, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we're really,
We doing this.
yeah, well, because at first he doesn't want to risk his life. Like,
Right,
he's like, nah, man.
right.
Like, any sensible person would be like, you know what?
That's right.
This piece of evil right here, no thanks.
That's right.
And then he almost like pretends it doesn't exist. Like that problem doesn't exist.
Yeah, for sure.
And then in this movie, he's like, all right.
Okay, I see how it is.
Like this ring is looking more and more desirable.
That's right. Hey,
Hey.
that's right.
He's like, he goes from like, don't tempt me.
Right,
So I don't wanna risk my life to give me the ring. Because
right. Yeah,
he never really, if you think about it, Frodo never wanted to be the hero.
right.
He's like a typical hobbit, right? I just want to chill, hang out,
That's right.
smoke, have my second breakfast.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like,
It's kind of interesting to see Frodo change though.
yeah, for sure.
Because you see that like instant change in him and like, all right, I guess I have to accept that this is kind of like my role.
Right. Yeah.
Like he did really try to avoid it, and then all of a sudden now he was like, all right, I guess this is my role and I have to do it.
Yeah, for
Still
sure.
not happy about it, but
Yeah. Right.
whereas Samwise was like, let's go, I'm ready
Yeah.
for this.
Let's do it.
And then Pippin's like, hey, you too.
I'm here.
Hey, hello, I'm Pippin.
You're right.
I love Pippin.
Right. Pretty great. Well, I guess that's about it
Yeah.
for real.
Do you want to do Tommy Boy really quick?
Do that. I'm kind of fading, so we'll have to do it quick.
Yeah, we can do it really quick.
Yeah. So I don't know. For me, like it's a comedy movie, so like there's not a whole lot of like filmmaking like critiques that I have for it, but like I just think it's a funny movie. I mean, Chris Farley and David Spade just as a combo just work together as a comedic duo. Like they're so great together. Just how they bounce back off each other because their personalities are so different and yet they complement each other so well.
I know.
Like David Spade has that sarcasm, and Chris Farley just has that goofiness to him. And it just normally I don't think it would work together, but I think for them it just somehow it just does. And they just have that like budding friendship that is just so great. And it just works throughout the movie, like, just the airport or the airplane scene to like fat guy in a little coat and the hotel scene and just them going through their car and getting their shenanigans. It's just hilarious. And obviously there's that serious storyline, but like you almost, and it's serious and that, but it's almost like the comedic makes it so much more fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't actually don't have a whole lot of notes for that one. How about you?
So I definitely think it's so hard because I try not to like analyze movies, but
Right.
I definitely think off the top of my head
Yeah.
that his character Tommy is definitely like um I don't want to say sheltered, but I think that's where he's getting that childlike just
Yeah.
attitude, like nonchalant, like nothing's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's because everything was kind of like handed to him.
Yeah. For sure.
And so when his dad died, he kind of had to like prove himself,
Yeah. For sure.
even to himself, and be like, wait, I can actually do this.
Yeah. For sure.
Like, if I have to work for it for the first time, but I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And that's why him and David Spade, I mean, I just think Chris Farley and David Spade in real life worked really well together.
Yeah.
But their characters were kind of very similar to their real life, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they worked together because Chris Farley had that childlike thing where he just took David Spade's sarcasm as like nothing.
Yeah. Right.
He was just like, okay,
All right. We're
you're
all
making
good.
fun of me, but whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I'm sure you can get into the father-son relationship, but
Yeah.
just like the father spoiled them. That's about it.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
all that's coming to mind. I'm fading too.
Right.
So
Oh, rock on.
we'll have to do this again, and where I actually watch the movie and take a lot better notes and can pull out specific scenes.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes that's easier.
Yeah. A show.
All right.
Well, I guess that's about it for this podcast.
Yeah, I would say so.
So hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you at some point in the future.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Bye.